Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has been very highly anticipated and set to release in early February. And over the last several days, there has been an explosion of drama surrounding reports about the game, about the sequel, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Responses from Daniel Vavra, who for the past several years, including even during Gamergate and things like that, has been very supportive of gamers and very anti-forced agenda into games and forcing characters to go through some sort of modern agenda or modern audience lesson. And it was shocking to see how all of this went down, but I have to talk about it. There was a rumor that started, what is this, Wednesday maybe? There was a rumor that started Wednesday because I was on stream that night, Wednesday night, and somebody asked me about it. And I said, I think everyone needs to hold their horses a little bit because it feels like that, that post could easily be misconstrued, and it didn't even sound like a legit report that it had been banned in Saudi Arabia, like all of these things. Warhorse Studios appears to issue a response to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 being banned in Saudi Arabia, which, as of right now, we don't have any indication that it's actually been banned in any countries, including Saudi Arabia. But the reason this was such a big deal when this initial report came out, and specifically what the report says, that it had been banned in Saudi Arabia for an unskippable gay sex scene. And that seems strange to me because although there are a handful of gay people in Kingdom Come Deliverance, the first one, every single cut scene is skippable. Whether it is like the most important thing to the story or not, every single cutscene is skippable in the first game. So it would be shocking to be one that it would be unskippable. And the nature of what does that exactly mean? How does that mean? Things like that. And there was a bunch of screenshots that were doctored that were floating around that I've seen some from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 preview footage from a lot of people that have posted reactions that I know that had nothing to do with the gay sex scene, and it was near the beginning of the game. So I knew a lot of it was bullshit, some of the stuff that was coming in and through this. But I really was wondering what the fuck is going on. And the reason this was such a big deal was because in 2018, when Daniel Vavra and Warhorse Studios, after they had worked 7-8 years, desperately trying to make this game, crowdfunding for this game on Kickstarter, delivering things, doing beta testing with people, like developing it for years, a real passion project. They wanted to create a true, essentially medieval RPG that is accurate to the time period. That's what they wanted to do. And they got hell because the game is centered in Bohemia, in Central Europe, basically. And you're not going to any big cities. You're going along the countryside to small townships and little things like this. And pretty much everybody was white in it. Right now, was there ethnic diversity? Yes, based on who was there, who the enemies were, things like this. But it got destroyed by mainstream games journalists because of it. It did. You can see like all of these basically are saying that we are upset because there's so many white people in this game. We are upset because there's so many Christians in this game, blah, blah, blah. And also Kingdom Come Deliverance, just like it was during that time period in 1403 in Bohemia, Christianity is hugely important. And of course, are there themes that go in that about what's happening with the Pope, or popes, I should say? What's happening with this king? What's happening with this king? How does that affect religion? Of course there are. And there are some people, everyone in the game knows religion is super important to the everyday way of life. Everybody in the game greets you with Jesus Christ be with you, Jesus Christ be praised, God be with you, like blah, blah, blah. If you swear, sometimes you cross yourself. Like faith is a very important element. Now, it's an RPG. Does that mean that everything you do has to fall in line with that? No, you get to make the decisions. Just as there are very pious people in the game and very good priests and very good people that follow the word of the Lord and do everything they should, there's also people that don't do that. There's people that are corrupt. There's people that are shitty. There's people that are pretending to be one thing that aren't. And you're interacting with all these people. You can be extremely pious. You can be as pious as you want in this, or you can make the decision to not be, because it's a true RPG. So Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was set, and they told us, hey, this is basically going to be a big expansion. You're going to go to more places. It's going to be a bigger map. You're even going to enter a massive major city for the real first time in this type of game. And so there started being reports of it there about there's a black person in this game and there's unskippable. They're forcing you to have gay sex in this game. And it's like all of this certainly got out of hand very quickly. Daniel Vavra put this out. He put this comment out. And it seemed like he didn't want to spoil the game. That's what it felt like. It wasn't very specific. This post wasn't very specific at all. Turns out we're once again in the middle of a rather bizarre culture war, this time from the opposite side than usual. So here's a statement, but I hate to spoil the plot for the game for the sake of it. The game is exactly what I want it to be because people, oh, you sold out for this, you sold out for this based on these rumors. The game's exactly what I wanted it to be. No one's tried to influence me as an artist in any way, and anyone who knows me knows I wouldn't let them anyway. Every character in the game has a very clear reason to be where they are, which you'll understand when you play the game. Our goal was and still is to show life in medieval Bohemia as it easily could have happened and to tell an interesting story. At the same time, it is an RPG. So it is purely up to the player what decisions they make, and for all the decisions they make, they are responsible for the consequences that correspond to the morals and social norms of that time. I don't want to spoil the plot, the important events, or the roles of some of the characters for anyone. So you'll have to see for yourself by playing the game, and then I strongly believe you'll agree with me. Now, in addition to this, there were other problems. Because as soon as these rumors came out, they obviously got inundated with a lot of stuff, including a very, very small minority of people. There's a lot of people asking, are you forcing gay sex in this game? Like, is that what's going on? Are you forcing either someone to witness gay sex or forcing your character to have gay sex? Like, whatever. What the fuck is going on? In that very, very small percentage of them, we're truly like, hey, you dirty Jew, F your F slur game and your N-word loving ass, right? Like that, those are some of the responses from a very small minority of people. Daniel Vavra responded to one of those people who had a swastika in their profile, right? And was calling him all these things. He responded to him and said, no, I don't bend to fucking Nazi shitheads like you. I think he would have been much better off not fucking responding, period, at all to anybody, regardless of what they're saying about him or the game. I also think because the Steam thing got inundated, they decided, hey, we need a Steam code of conduct because we're getting inundated with some of these things from a very, very small minority of people. That resulted in a completely overblown code of conduct for the Steam forum about rules about discrimination and slurs and hateful things and all that stuff. That obviously turned a lot of people off. And I think they did this in response to a very, very small portion of people taking things way too far. That led to what I believe rightfully is people questioning, what the fuck are you doing? Why is this person with pronouns putting out a huge code of conduct, trying to control everything we're saying about this game? Why are you hiding basic replies? Some offer replies, but mostly just basic replies on Kingdom Come Deliverance. And finally, this resulted in Daniel Vavra having to come out and do what I don't think he wanted to do, and is spoil parts of this story. So here you have it. It is time to address wild claims some people spread that are apparently based on just one screenshot and a poorly translated tweet. Spoiler alert also contains spoilers about the story of KCD2. I don't think they're very major spoilers, but I do want to also give that warning out there. I know there's a lot of people here that want to play KCD2 that have probably pre-ordered it, all these things. So fair warning, a couple minor little things are going to be spoiled potentially. 1, there are no unskippable cutscenes in our games. Anyone who claims otherwise never played them. That was one of the things I thought immediately. Like, it made no fucking sense at all. 2, we are not nor ever were banned in any country, at least not that we know of. 3, as much as I don't like forced diversity, nobody was forcing us to do anything, and we are not forcing anyone to do certain things. 4, gay characters were already in KCD1, and that is true. And I think some of the responses from this, it feels like some people, and I hadn't played the game until very recently, so I can't pretend like I'm some sort of fucking expert, but it does feel like a lot of people haven't ever played the game to be saying some of the things they're saying in response to this, just for the record. 5, KCD is an RPG. You are responsible for your decisions. If you want Henry to try a same-sex adventure, feel free. If you don't want to, you don't have to. All affairs are and were in KCD1 purely optional. The characters are perfectly aware that it was a forbidden sin. And we will get back to that. I'll readdress what this says right here. The game takes place during one of the richest cities in Europe, which was besieged by a massive foreign army. That's the reason why the life in the city is more diverse than the life in the villages. Musa, who is the one black character that we know of that exists in this game, Musa came to Bohemia with an invading army as a member of the royal court of King Sigismund, who is fucking the enemy, right? Or one of the antagonist, enemy, whatever you want to call it, of the game, whom he met thanks to his engagement at the court of Sultan Bayezid. He's an educated noble and a Renaissance man from the kingdom of Mali. At the same time, this black character is a very unusual figure for the local Bohemian folk, and many of the situations around him in the game stem from this. So his presence makes sense and creates a lot of interesting situations. The way he talks and behaves has a reason. And we have other things confirmed from people who have played the game, essentially say that, yeah, Musa is essentially enslaved to a fucking commander, and that's why he's there. He's in their service, and everybody treats him like shit because this is 1403 in Bohemia, and it's very abnormal to exist as someone looks like that during that time period. Now you, as a player, you can treat him like shit. You can treat him neutral. You can befriend him. You can try to get things from him. You can try to do things for him. You can tell him to fuck out. Right. These are all the things you can do because it's a role-playing game. So if you want to treat him like you would have treated him in 1403 Bohemia, you can. If you want to treat the gay people like you treated them in 1403 Bohemia, you can. Everything displayed corresponds to the morals and social norms of 1403 Bohemia and is only there to make an interesting story and not at all to appeal to a modern audience. We don't want KCD to be used as clickbait by people who didn't even play it. Some of them sadly turned into exactly the same narrative they pretend to be fighting against. The amount of hateful behavior is sad and will damage any cause associated with it. And that is his response. I think that Warhorse Studios fucked up in the way that they handled this by creating this big code of conduct for a very small amount of people who truly were saying, you know, shit that most people would consider beyond the pale, whatever. I don't fucking care. I don't care if somebody comes and says something fucking, some slur or some whatever. It doesn't fucking matter to me. I'm not offended by anything like that. But there are people in the world that are, especially if they're referring to a slur that is applied to you potentially. I don't know. But it was a very small portion of people, just as it normally is, that actually were saying those types of things. The vast majority of people were saying, hey, are these rumors true? Is this happening? What's going on? Did you really sell out to the woke mind virus? Are you pushing DEI? Like all of these things. I think they could have handled it much better. I'm glad he finally came out and explained everything. And I do think even with that, there's going to be some people that think the idea of in an RPG that there's a same-sex option that is never forced upon you, that you never have to do, that you can treat all gay people like shit because that's the social norm and standard in 1403. I still do think there's going to be a handful of people that say, no, not for me. I don't want anything involved in the game like that. Now, I think that will also be the minority of players, and I think Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is going to be pretty big. But overall, to me, the important thing when it comes to that in the game is it's an RPG. So in the same way that you could do things that would make people look down upon you, whether it's being a gravedigger and grave robber, whether it's ripping off the church, whether it's talking bad about the church, all these things that you could do in the first one, as long as those things still apply, as he said, social norms, cultural norms, things like that, like those are decisions that you as Henry make. And I really don't have a problem with that. If there's a same-sex romance, and I've heard there's only one in the game, and I've heard you have to specifically try to do it. You have to go on like half the game in order to try to court this person and do that, and it has to be all in secret, blah, blah, blah. That's what the person who has played this game says. And everybody looks at you like you're a massive pile of shit if you do that. I really don't have much of a problem with that. I understand that for some people, that's going to be like, nope, game over, done. And, you know, everyone has their right to feel exactly the way, however they want about anything in a video game. I'm not going to take that away from you. For me, I feel like the initial story was way overblown, and I think potentially by a lot of people that didn't actually play the first game, possibly. And that's why maybe they had a different interpretation of the second game. For me, seeing everything that Daniel Vavra has said and done over the past several years and the game they've made before and the previews for it, I think that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is going to be really good. But I think people are absolutely well within their rights to say, hey, I smell something fishy. Fuck this game. Or I smell something fishy. I'm going to wait for reviews, just as you could with any game that you may or may not have a question about. But there's no doubt this is not, they didn't want this massive controversy a few weeks before this game released. They felt so confident about the game that they gave it to reviewers a month before the game release. And people have been releasing reactions weeks and weeks before the game releases. This is not something they were trying to hide from anybody. It's not something that they were trying to, oh, we don't want anybody to see this because it's not polished. The things I've seen about it so far have looked very, very good. An upgrade from the second one, an expanded world, and more of what you could expect from Kingdom Come Deliverance. Gay sex isn't being normalized in it. In fact, it's being looked down upon and frowned upon as sinful and degenerate in this era in Bohemian 1403. But certainly everyone is free to have their own opinions. But there was so much drama that exploded over this. And everybody that did have a problem or did have questions, like, we've been burned so many times by different studios over the past couple of years, over the past decade plus. So I think people are very right to ask questions or be worried or whatever. Just to me, with having played the first one and having seen what they're saying is happening with the second one, I do think that the response initially was a little bit overblown. But if that simple inclusion itself, even though it's not forced on you, even though you don't have to do anything, nothing like that, if that is too much for some people, I totally do get it. And I think that they could have handled the response a lot better, especially when it comes to the social media side. When people start getting, banned from a forum for this, when people start hiding replies, that's always a bad sign. That is a bad thing. So I think those first couple days, Warhorse Studios, they did not handle it right. They fucked that up. But we'll see if the explanation, albeit not wanting to spoil the game, the explanation, we'll see what that does to placate or permanently turn anyone off from the game going forward.